Welcome, high energy apes, to my first evolutionary fitness video. In this video, we'll talk about metabolism. In evolutionary biology, calories are important. They are the currency of life. Everything from growth to activity to reproduction depends on calories. And evolutionarily, life is the game of turning energy into offspring. That's the game. And evolutionarily, species are the diversity of metabolic strategy. How do we differ? How has human metabolism evolved? Humans are primates, and how does that fit? Let's talk about total daily energy burn between primates, humans, and other mammals. In a project called the Primate Energetic Project, measured primates in captivity and in the wild. Now this will be an important distinction later between captive and wild primates and how they differ. What it found is that primates are not like other mammals. What it showed is small bodies, less calories, larger bodies, more. But primates' energy expenditure is less than other mammals of comparative size. Almost half as less. We are kind of a low energy primate compared to our mammalian cousins. Now, since primates are a low metabolism group, what are the implications of that? Well, we tend to have a slower pace of life. Compared to a 15-year-old dog, a 15-year-old human is just starting out their life. Unfortunately, a 15-year-old dog is near the end of its life. We tend to age a little slower. We have longer lives. Now, primates are odd because of this compared to mammals. But how do humans compare to our primate brothers? We compare primates and mammals. Let's compare humans and primates. We are primates, but let's compare us to the other ones. We are higher energy apes. We tend to have a more expensive brain, a little bit larger, more complex. It burns a lot more calories per day than them. We have larger babies and more often. So again, that reproductive currency. We also tend to be more physically active. And that is a strange evolutionarily trait there. Even when we control for body size and activity, we are still more metabolically active than our primate brothers. Again, this probably goes back to the expensive brain. Larger babies when you account for physical activity. When did this metabolic trait evolve in humans? We think about 2.5 million years ago when our ancestors, and I don't know the name of the ancestor that was living around that time, it wasn't humans, they started a hunter-gathering lifestyle. This is way before humans, and being a hunter-gatherer is metabolically costly, so we've inherited that. Now, if hunter-gathering lifestyle affects metabolism, how does our more industrial, sedentary lifestyle affect it? Do we use less over the day? Does this sedentary lifestyle make us sick? Those are two important distinctions we might go over later. If we look at modern day hunter-gatherers, the Hadza in northern Tanzania, amount of steps per day. Women and men, women about 13,000 steps, men about 19,000 steps. So they're more active in count. Both men and women are more physically active in minutes per day of activity. They get about 120 minutes per day. That's more per day than most industrial people get per week. At first glance, this would indicate that they have a higher energy expenditure per day. More steps, more activity. They must burn more than us. Not really. The red are the Hadza, and on this graph, it shows that they've fit right in line with the normal trend of industrial people in energy expenditure. And again, you see a larger body size, larger calories per day, larger amount of energy expenditure. This is an important point we should go over later. Another interesting study was done at the Shuar in the Amazon, particularly looking at children energetics, which is a really interesting topic. They are more active. They have more counts, again, than their Western counterparts. They also have a higher basal metabolic rate. This might be because they are battling more parasites and viruses and bacteria in the wild than we do in our very sterile living rooms. So they have more activity. They have a higher basal metabolic rate. Maybe they have a higher energy expenditure. Nope, not really. When compared to individual kids, industrial kids, they fit right in the trend also. It doesn't seem to matter what lifestyle is, hunter, gathering, or sedentary. Our metabolism seems to adjust to fit us at that 2.5 kcals, 1,000 kcals a day. But the chimps, do you remember them? The wild ones compared to the sedentary? Maybe they have a higher energy expenditure. Nope. They seem to adjust it also, which is an interesting thing. And they don't have the hunter-gathering background that we do. Now, when someone starts a more active lifestyle, say a sedentary person starts to exercise, they initially have a higher energy expenditure per day. But the body adjusts, and it'll spend less on other tasks eventually. That's one of the benefits of physical activity, particularly when it comes to inflammatory response and stress. Inflammation is a really big problem in Western industrial societies. This is partly due to our diet, we think, and it's partly due to our lack of exercise. When we exercise, we create less of the C-reactive protein, and that causes inflammation. And inflammation is a very costly thing. So that's the immune system kind of going to war, sometimes with itself. That's very metabolically active. So even if we exercise more, we'll spend less on inflammatory response. So it kind of balances out at the end. More exercise balances with less inflammation and less stress. Sitting there and stressing all day in our industrial world, our sedentary industrial world, is metabolically costly too. When you exercise, you tend to be less stressful throughout the rest of the day. So that balances back with your higher energy expenditure. This balance and compensation to more exercise is why some people find it hard to lose weight with exercise. But there are ways to hijack our evolutionary metabolism and reaction to exercise. Again, we go back to the body size. If we exercise, if we strength train to increase hypertrophy, muscle size, we can increase our basal metabolic rate. We will have to increase our daily input of calories. Sometimes you see those freaks in the gym. They need to eat 4,000 plus kcals just to maintain muscle mass. Again, they're hijacking our body's reaction to exercise. And in a way, that exercise is not the healthiest. It tends to increase the risk of injury. With the risk of injury, you get stronger bones though, you get stronger muscles, it looks great, you're built like Adonis. But to increase the physioelectrical properties of bone, you only need to load a long bone with 10% of the force it would take to break a long bone, or 1/3, and what's 1/3 the force it would take to break a long bone perpendicularly. So that's not a lot of weight. You're packing on those plates on the gym, you're increasing your risk for slip synovial discs. You're not producing enough synovial fluid, possibly. You're increasing the wear and tear. You're increasing the risk of strains and sprains in your ligaments and tendons. But what about aerobic exercise or endurance training? Those runners you see at the Olympics, they're cut and they eat 8,000, 5,000 calories a day, kcals. Well, again, they're hijacking our body's ability to run. Hunter-gatherers, although taking lots of steps per day, don't train for marathons. They don't live the lifestyle that a marathoner training to run, or a super endurance athlete who runs more, an Ironman. Those people run 10 miles a day. again, that exercise protocol increases the risk for injury, overuse injury. That's an interesting aspect too, but they are increasing their daily energy expenditure. When you find a homeostatic balance with exercise, running, with resistance training, it tends to be if we fit that caveman lifestyle, the hunter-gatherers, lots of steps, maybe you could throw in some resistance training to get a nice little build. Nothing too crazy, nothing, you don't want to build too much muscle if you want to be healthy. Just enough to decrease the inflammation, just enough to decrease your stress. Now, I'm not telling you to do what to do with your body. If you want to bulk up like Arnold, go do it, man. If you want to train for a super marathon and run 10 miles a day, go do it. But to live healthy, to really fit our ecological niche, we should live like hunter-gatherers. I'm not saying leave your air-conditioned room, but walk like them, run like them, resistance train like them, think like them.